You won't survive for long out there. There's room for you in our group if you want.
She's just another mouth to feed. If we leave her out here, she'll die. I don't mean to question your sense of mercy, David. Maybe that's God's will.
Let me protect you. The others want to kill you?
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my Last of Us Episode 8 trailer video. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes, and careful for spoilers from Episode 7 if you haven't seen it yet. The title of the episode is When We Are in Need, which is a reference to Ellie's fight with David's group here. David's the main antagonist here. In the prayer that they have written on their banner, when we are in need, he shall provide. Like their group treats Ellie as if she's sent by God to answer their prayers for food. Because there's this whole bad vibe to the trailer, and that's on purpose. David's group are affectionately referred to by the fans as the Cannibals, and there's a huge Troy Baker cameo here. He's playing James, the secondary antagonist, part of David's group, and even though it seems like he's the bad guy, he wants to kill Ellie, like he pulls his gun up on her a couple of times, you find out that he's actually one of the more merciful ones of the bunch. It seems like we're going to get a much bigger flashback on their group to show how they became what they are in present day. Some of these scenes might be happening in present day though. But they're meant to be a group of minor antagonists for Ellie and Joel later in the events of the first game, and they're meant to be part of the same group that they ran into at the university, the same one that Joel killed. He was from David's group. Remember, they haven't traveled very far. She just drug him to a house nearby, so they're still in that area around the university when she runs into David's group here. This is all right out of the game with a bunch of stuff added in, like they've done with previous episodes before. Like you get more backstory on all the characters just to flesh everyone out.
Hello? We just want to talk.
Any sudden moves and I put one right between your eyes. Ditto for buddy boy over there. What do you want?
Name's David. This here's my friend James. We're from a larger group. Women, children. We're all very, very hungry.
So am I. Women and children, all very hungry too.
Well, maybe we could, trade you for some of that meat there. What do you need? Weapons? Ammo? Clothes?
Medicine!
In a lot of the episode is Ellie by herself trying to deal with this other group while she still continues to nurse Joel back to health. Like at the beginning of the trailer, you see the aftermath of episode 6 where she slowly nurses him back to consciousness. She managed to find some string and close his wound, but he's still on the edge of death, like he's still barely there. You see her hunting for the stag to try and find them some food, showing off some of the skills that she's learned, some survival skills. She's not completely there yet, but she's gotten better at surviving on her own. This is all right out of the games.
This won't last very long.
So in the game, this is basically when she runs into David's group. Like she runs into David and James like, oh, hey there, surprise, surprise, looking for some food, are you? And the vibe you get from David and James in the trailer is very similar to the vibe in the games, where they present themselves as very benevolent people like, oh hey, it's another mouth to feed, so great, why don't we help each other? When really they have much more sinister plans for her. And suddenly you realize the scene of them looking with the banner above them in this meeting room here in this lodge, when we are in need, he shall provide, is them treating Ellie like she's a nice snack sent by God because it's winter and they've run out of food. And like I said, even though they're treating the Troy Baker character like he's one of the worst ones trying to kill Ellie, he's actually meant to be the nicer of the two of them, of him and David, because he wants to do this quickly. James tells David that she's another mouth to feed, they can't even think of keeping her around. Maybe God wants her to die, maybe that's his will. It's just not feasible keeping another person around. But David argues with him that they should, like he's trying to make it seem like he's trying to help this person. And here's where the other shoe drops, because in the games around this time, there are infected in this area, but remember, Joel said a long time ago that the biggest thing they had to worry about in these remote areas were other people. The whole idea is that other people are even more dangerous than the fungus. There are infected in this area where they are because it's somewhat popular. There's a small group of people, like David's group is a small group of people. So it's not like it's completely free of the fungus, but it's not nearly as bad as it is in the quarantine zone in more populated areas. That's where you tend to find more of the fungus just because it feeds on other people. That's its food source, basically. And just like Joel told her, no, we can't have a fire because the people out there are raiders that look to kill us and do even worse things to us. And the even worse part is where we get to David's group. In the trailers, it seems like David tries to help her, like, oh, he's the nice guy, like he's trying to protect her. Nope. He basically wants to trap Ellie and keep her as his own personal plaything in the most sadistic way. So now all the other members of his group that might want to eat her, which is bad enough on its own, somehow seem like the better option of the two. Troy Baker not coming off as bad in these trailers. Just kill her and be done with it. Don't play with your food. There's lots of moments from the games in this trailer. Just a few changes. They've expanded the scene with David's group just to flesh out their characters, their group's backstory a little more. Her hunting the deer at the beginning here is right out of the games, but in the episode, she's using Joel's rifle instead of the bow from the games. As you can see, that's basically how she winds up running into David's group, and they slowly begin to find out, like David starts to figure out who she is. Wait a minute.
Been slaughtered by a crazy man. And get this, he's a crazy man traveling with a little girl.
There were a couple of our people that came running back and said they ran into a crazy old man and a little girl that was with him, and some of them died. So it's a very suspenseful episode, like a very crazy episode compared to last week. If you didn't think there was enough action in episode 7, this is completely the opposite of that. It's like wall-to-wall action. It starts out with Ellie trying to save Joel, hunting this deer, like big test for her in survival skills, and then running into David's group and trying to deal with them on her own, mind you. Later in the trailer, you see the lodge where they were meeting on fire. That seems like Ellie trying to make her escape. And Joel basically has to force himself to stay conscious long enough to try and save her in his condition after she's been captured by David. So it does wind up being a big rally for Joel's character too. The way they played this though, they kind of done this in previous episodes as well, where they move through the plot really fast. Because in the games, there was a much bigger time jump between when Joel was wounded at the university by David's group and when Ellie first encounters David in the wild here with James. And remember, there's only one more episode after this, and they're supposed to cover the entire first game during Season 1, which is why they're moving through the plot so fast. Kind of feels like they needed 10 episodes instead of just 9. So that means that the finale is going to have to be super sized because there's still so much stuff that happens during the first game. We can wait to talk about that till they drop the trailer for Episode 9. Remember, Episode 9 is the finale. They're still on the mission to find the Fireflies. This has just been a detour to nurse Joel back to health so that he doesn't die on her, but they decided to try and make it to Salt Lake City, Utah, where the Fireflies had indicated that they'd retreated to on that map, which is still a pretty solid journey from them. They haven't gone that far. Remember, Ellie just drug him to a nearby house in this suburb near the university. It wasn't that far, so they're still in the nearby area where they were in Episode 6. That's why you see David's group patrolling in and around these same houses where Ellie has been hiding with Joel. It seems like they're trying to say in the trailer that David is like the pastor of their group, which just adds to its level of sinister and evil to his character. Oh, the holy man, he wouldn't be the evil person. He wants to protect this young child, not keep her like a pet.
No one who speaks German could be an evil man.
This scene of David talking to her saying, the others want to kill you, I want to keep you alive, is him talking to her after he's trapped her behind these bars. Also, right out of the games, they might have changed the dialogue just a little bit. They did that with Riley's conversation at the end of Episode 7, but it's the same basic scene, just like the scenes in Episode 7 and previous episodes. Overall, the episodes have adapted the plot of the games pretty closely, like a lot of the scenes in the dialogue are taken directly from the games. They've just expanded on some of that. Like Episode 3 is a good example, where they just add a whole bunch of backstory for characters that you only get a little bit from in the games. For those of you asking about Season 2 and beyond, they've actually said that they're planning on splitting the events of the second game for future seasons. So like Season 2 won't be all of the second game, it'll be like the first half of the second game, maybe even less than that. If you haven't played the games, the second game is almost like twice as long as the first game. There's just so much more stuff going on in that. And this is also assuming they eventually make The Last of Us 3 game, which Neil Druckmann has talked about in the past.
Is there Last of Us Part 3? I'll just say right now our focus is on we have the multiplayer game coming out, and we're going to reveal more of that later this year. Beyond that, it's the same process we've always had. We don't do something that we're not extremely passionate about. So unless we had a really good, compelling story to keep the story going, then it ends in Part 2.
The way he talks about it is very non-committal, like, well, if we find a good story, we'll do it. But clearly, they probably plan on doing it just because the first two games were so successful, even though fans weren't quite as hot on the second game. Mostly stuff like that comes down to money, and they're supposedly making The Last of Us multiplayer game right now, and that's going to be extra material that wasn't featured in the first 2 games. Like, it'll be new story with other characters. We'll see if they incorporate any of that stuff into future seasons as well. But if you spotted any other Easter eggs or references in the trailer that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. In my full episode 8 video, we'll post next Sunday after they release it. The other real big reminder is that The Mandalorian Season 3 episodes are starting, and I'm doing videos for all the episodes just like I did for previous seasons. More Pedro Pascal into the Pascalverse. Those episodes release at midnight Tuesday nights Pacific time. My episode videos will post later in the mornings on Wednesdays. They just released the opening scene from The Mandalorian Season 3 Episode 1. You can click here for my video from that, and click here for my full Last of Us Episode 7 video and Easter eggs.